I was asked, was I offended by that? And I was like, no, I'd be much more offended if he didn't celebrate.
Magnus Carlsen is the world's #1 chess player. The 5-time world champion has a peak rating of 2882, the highest in history. He was in Singapore to promote his latest project, freestyle chess. This was on the sidelines of the FIDE World Championship held in Singapore for the first time. I'm Sumiko, Executive Editor to Straits Times. I met the Norwegian grandmaster at the Summer Pavilion at the Ritz-Carlton Millennium Singapore. Magnus, who is freestyle chess targeted at?
Yeah, it's a very good question. What we find is that with like strong players, like not necessarily professionals, but like international masters and above, they find it really fascinating because you're creating something new. And also we find that with casual chess fans, for them, it doesn't really matter whether you play the Sicilian or you play the Spanish or whatever. So for them, the chess position doesn't look different, and they find it really fascinating that best players in the world are almost as clueless as they are from the get-go. So they're kind of the ones we're targeting. We're trying to like reach a broader audience to say like, hey, this is a game that hasn't been analyzed, that's extremely difficult.
Would you have been keen on freestyle chess, say, 10 years ago?
I think you make a good point. I think two things have happened in the last 10 years. First of all, like the older players that I am now part of myself, it's easier, of course, to become a bit jaded when you do this for so many years, and it's such a struggle just to get a game. And also, opening theory has advanced so much. I mean, relatively speaking, it was so easy 10, 15 years ago. It was so much easier to get a game. So many openings that were sort of playable then have been more or less nullified now. So you constantly have to sort of squeak out more and more like obscure variations in order to find something that hasn't been analyzed nearly to death. The question is, would I have found it interesting back then? Certainly. Do I think that a lot has happened then since that makes the shift necessary? Yeah.
So are you bored by the classical game?
I like the general idea of sitting down at the board for hours and playing chess. Like, I enjoy the sort of process, and it's quite rewarding when you do that, when you're working hard. The problem for me is that everything that has to do with preparation for long games, I'm quite done with. So I don't know if that means that I'm bored, but I'm, definitely a bit jaded when it comes to that.
Is the chess fraternity a friendly one? Do you have friends?
I would say that we're generally good colleagues. It's cordial. I wouldn't say I'm particularly friendly with other top players, but with like a couple of notable exceptions, I don't have any particularly bad blood either. We don't hate each other, but we want to beat each other over the board. And I think also for so many years, I've sort of had something that they want, right? So it's hard to be like good friends when you sort of want the same thing.
Do you still want to hit 2900?
Honestly, I think there's been deflation in the rating system. About 10 years ago, I think there were 50 people rated above 2700. Now there's barely 30. Also, like the average rating of the top 10 is going down. And I don't have the motivation. So I think for the last year, my performance in every tournament, like either I win 1 rating point, I lose 1 rating point, I win 2, I lose 2. Like, it's been very, very consistent. So now I'm rated around 2830. And honestly, all indications seem to point that that's about my level right now. So reaching 2900, I think, is quite unrealistic.
What's behind your Instagram phrase, beating someone once isn't revenge?
Yeah, there was a time when I was knocked out of an important tournament by a certain player, and then I beat him in another tournament that wasn't as big, and I was asked if it was good to get revenge, and I said that this is not revenge. For me to actually get revenge, I would have to like beat him repeatedly in a very dominating fashion. I was asked once when somebody like celebrated sort of in what other people viewed excessively when he beat me. I was asked, was I offended by that? And I was like, no, I'd be much more offended if he didn't celebrate. That's sort of what I mean, that I just keep that mentality of want to beat everybody, and if they get me once, I really, really want to hit them back several times.
Are people intimidated by Magnus Carlsen?
Well, I hope that people are intimidated by me over the board. Apart from that, I don't see any reason to be. I know like there's always like a bit of a hierarchy when you're in a group and you have like same interests, and like one person is better at that than others, but I don't like look at it that way. I hope people are not. I'm just a fairly normal guy.
Thanks very much.
No, thank you.
They see pawn shop as a place to help them resolve their money issues or provide them with the liquidity that they need.